So I'm going to go in the corner. I'm going to lay it down on top of my styrofoam and I'm going to gently rub. So my styrofoam is underneath. It's on the table in your case. And you're going to rub like this. Make sure that you rub in all different corners so that you pick up all of the paint. And you're not going to press too hard because that would make more marks. And then you can peel it off. And if you're lucky, some of your things will have made a mark. So you can see I've got the key ring, I've got some dots, I've got some paper clips, but because of the way I've layered it, it actually just looks like a really interesting pattern, and I don't necessarily know that you'd think they were the shapes. And then I could go again, so I don't have to wash it, I just go again. If you're lucky enough to have 2 colour paints, you might want to try different colours. They might get a little bit mixed, but you could give it just a little wipe with a damp kitchen cloth. So I've put more paint on, again just a thin layer, and I'm going to line it up this time. I'm going to go next to that print so that I can hopefully get a repeat pattern, so a row of different prints. And again, I'm just rubbing the top in little circles, making sure I get to all the different corners. And then I will peel it off. So I'm peeling off the paper like that. So I'm not taking the print everywhere because that will mean paint gets everywhere. So there we go. So you can see I've tried to line it up. This one didn't quite have enough paint there, but that's okay. Next time I'll know to put more there. And I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going until I get to the end of the page. And then you can see what a row of my repeat pattern looks like. So I'm going to line it up again next to my other print, and it's not too hard to do because the paper's quite thin. So I'm rubbing all the corners, making sure I've pressed all of the different parts of my print. And I've peeled it off. And there you go, you can see you've got a nice row of prints. So I could, if I had a different colour paint, I've actually only got white paint, so that would be no good for this paper. But I could have done white paint on dark paper, if you were lucky or had that. Or if you've got some old wrapping paper or brown paper, you could do black paint on that and see how it came out. You could also have done a different row of colours. You could have alternated colours, couldn't you? Or you could just keep going and you would end up with something that was a little bit like wrapping paper or a little bit like a print on fabric. So experiment and see what you can get. I'm quite pleased with that pattern, actually. So I'm going to move on and I'm going to try it on a different piece of paper. So I'm going to, again, just put another layer of paint on, a nice thin layer all over. And on this piece of paper, I have just put scraps of paper on. So I've already put just little things of leftovers that I had from doing other pieces of art, or maybe they could be just ripped up pieces of letters, pieces that you've got in the mail. So I'm just going to put my print on here just because it'll give it an exciting background, really. So I'm going to choose that's going to go right there near the yellow part. And I've laid it down on top. So I've laid my coloured paper down on top of the paint. And I'm just going to rub again. You might need to rub a little bit harder if you've got lots and lots of thick layers of paper. So I'm going to push and peel it off. And then I've got my print, but it's on top of all these colours now, which is pretty cool. So you can see it just looks a bit more exciting with these things on it. So I might go again, do another. I'm going to go onto the pink and purple part of my page this time. So you see you can do quite a lot of prints just from one little piece of foam. It doesn't necessarily get used up if you're not pushing too hard. So I'm going to print on this bit now. So I'm pushing and rubbing gently, making sure I get all the corners. And then I'm peeling it off. And then I've got another one on top. So that looks quite nice, I think. It's just a bit more interesting, isn't it? Because in the parts where my things had made a mark, I've now got the coloured paper underneath, which I think adds just a different element to it. So those are just some ideas of how you could use your foam to do the printing. But of course, you might have different ideas as well as patterns. You might want to make kind of more pictures. You might want to use your shapes to draw things. You might even just want to use a pencil to draw in lines. If you're doing it with your pencil, drawing in lines, then just be careful not to make a big dent, because what you can see is even though I made a dent, I didn't come through the other side, because that would make this foam quite weak and it might break. So you want to try and keep it so that your foam is nice and strong, so that you can use it lots and lots of times to do lots of prints. That's the really good thing about prints. You don't have to do it once. You can just keep going, keep going. So the last thing I wanted to tell you was about the paint. You could use poster paint, it's perfect, just normal washable children's poster paint. I used acrylic, which is probably a bit too thick, so I just had to put a little bit of water in so that it was a bit more spreadable. The watercolour paint that you got in your pack, if you did pick up a pack, that wouldn't really be the right kind of paint. It would have to be something that was a little bit thicker, okay? So good luck with that, and if you have a go, please do send us a picture, and I hope you're having a good time at home, and happy Easter.